So today is SABC2 session. We have Jackie Shlongwani. She's the program manager for SABC2. Jackie is also acting program manager at S3, but in today's session, she'll only speak to S2. And then Gerard Pretorius, he is the bouquet manager for bouquet 2. So effectively runs SABC2. And we have a DTT and DTH channel, SABC Education, which the team also runs. They'll take you through the overview, channel strat, their programming plan for factual. I've asked them to focus on documentaries for the session, and then they'll be available. So I'll hand over to Jax and Gerard. Hey, guys.
Hey. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you fine. If it's okay.
Hi, everybody.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Hi.
And just for a moment, I'll switch on my camera. I think you can see me, just for in case people don't know who I am. Again, then I'll switch it off because...
Well, I haven't seen him in a year. Hello, Gerard.
Can you see? I've decided I'm growing my hair
and that's
until
me.
COVID is over.
Hey, Jack.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Jack is enjoying the sun.
Yes, you know, I'm a reptile. I need the sun.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I will share the presentation shortly, and then I will take you through some of this, and then Jackie will take you through the detail of the kind of stuff that we're doing on SABC2 and why we're doing that. Just something quickly from my side. Guys, I really do feel your pain, because in my previous life, before I joined the SABC, I worked in the documentary field, mostly in the kind of wildlife documentary space. And this happened in the late 1990s and early 2000s, when it was really a nightmare to get anything in the wildlife space from South Africa done, because you had to work through a kind of like distributor who was the only contact that you ever had with a Nat Geo and Disney through Animal Planet, etc., etc. So it was kind of like very difficult to break into the market. In the early 2000s, it became easier when, you know, people like Nat Geo and Discovery opened it up, where they had a website through which you could submit things. But yeah, I just wanted to say I do understand, and I do understand that you guys have some frustrations. We'll run through kind of like who SABC2 is, and then give you a glimpse of, you know, just the stuff that we like. And then what I want this to be is a conversation between us. I will tell you some things that has worked on the channel and why it's worked, or why we pick certain things, and why sometimes we're reluctant not to choose other things. So quickly, and I hope this is going to work. And please tell me if you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
There. Okay. Yeah. So
just 1 minute. There's something that I need to then check here. Let me ask you a question. I've given you that video. Please watch that video. It has you had watched it before. If you had not watched it before, please watch it now. It has everything you need to know about those our friends. Actually, the one that I'm meeting on Sunday should
Hi,
watch.
sorry, we're getting somebody.
Yeah, Minister, maybe need to watch it again and again now.
Hi, okay. Sorry guys, please can we keep
please watch it.
ourselves on mute?
Okay. Okay.
Everybody
Great.
should be muted just so that we can continue with the presentation. I do apologize. I think somebody just joined and they weren't on mute and I didn't catch that. So I apologize. So Gerard, we can see your screen. I just wanted to say, would you like to make it a full screen and then we'll see just the actual slide?
Can try. Yes.
Yes, thank you. No, sorry, not yet, but okay, it's fine.
Is it fine? Let me try again.
Okay.
Okay, that should be better.
Yes, thanks, much better. Wonderful, thank you.
So just as a background to the whole conversation that we're going to have, SABC2 has kind of like evolved over the past few years. And you will remember it was kind of like always referred to as the channel for the nation. And we still carry, you know, presidential addresses. And during COVID, we did a lot of that kind of stuff. But, you know, that aside, okay, SABC2 is designed and the content that we acquire is all about a family entertainment channel. And you know what families are all about. You know, it's complicated. There are people who work together, there are people who are always fighting, etc., etc. But when you think about family, okay, forget about just the 3 people that you share your house with. You know, think further that, you know, sort of the way families have evolved in South Africa is you have 3-4 generations of people living in the same house. There are single parents, there are step parents, etc., etc. So it's a very complicated thing. So and added to that, you know, what we see as family is all the social kind of like interactions that we have with people. We go to the gym, we go to church, we go to work, and those people, you form kind of like family relationships with those people. So family is not what happens in a nuclear family in a house. This is far more, you know, this is expanded. So see family in that broad perspective. Okay, so the target audience, obviously because we're family, we're not really skewed to the younger people. That's what SABC1 and to a certain extent SABC3 deals with. Our kind of age target market is between 35 and 45. Like always, it's a little bit more female skewed. Then the complication on SABC2, always remember that the channel has to deliver content in Afrikaans, and it also has to deliver in the Sotho grouping of channels. And then we also have to deal with marginalized languages, and mostly it's Venda and Tsonga, so it becomes complicated. When we're talking about the reach, there's roughly about 9 million people who watches the channel per week. And I'll take you through kind of like the audience profile. As I said, a little bit more female skewed. So while we say our target market or target audience is 35 to 45, you'll see that we kind of like reach that. But we're also skewed a little bit older, and sometimes it's probably just because of the languages that we broadcast in. So I think a lot of older Afrikaans people probably watch the channel instead of having a cake net. But then we also, you know, sort of because families have kids and some of them are younger, so in 15 and 24 and 25 to 34, we also attract quite a lot of those people. When it comes to ethnicity, if you want to call it that, we have 8% of the audience is white. We have quite a big colored audience, which is 20%, and then the rest is black and a little bit of an Indian aspect to that. When it comes to how these people live and how much money they make, etc., etc., if you look at the old things, when it was the LSM scales that we used, is mostly LSM kind of like 4 to 7 and going up to probably about 5 to 8. Language-wise, Afrikaans, Nguni, and Sotho, you'll see those are kind of like not evenly split, but I mean, there's quite a nice balance. Most of the people who watch the channel in Gauteng, Then obviously because of the Afrikaans skew and the big colored community in the Western Cape, that comes out big there. And also Limpopo and the Eastern Cape. Yeah. And then, as I said, when it comes to, you know, kind of like lifestyle and that kind of thing on the SEMs, you know, 22% in the high super group, then 40% in medium and 37% on the lower scale of that. And that is kind of like, just to give you an idea of, you know, sort of who we're speaking to and what it is. When we acquire content, the content is always aligned to a family proposition. You know, we're not afraid to challenge things. We're not afraid to ask questions, but it's always done and framed within a family environment. And the content is safe for families to watch. So we don't shy away from dealing with, you know, controversial topics, but it has to be done in a way that a family can sit there and watch it together, especially between 6 and 9. Okay, Jackie. I will steer the ship from this side.
Yes, please. Just give me a second because my battery is kind of dying. And I don't want it to die in the middle of the presentation. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity. I mean, I think these are really important engagements that we should be having with the industry, especially in the space of documentary, because, you know, everything else is really entertainment. And we all know the importance of documentary and its role, especially in a public broadcaster like the SABC, especially in a country like ours, where there's just so many issues that we need to talk about in terms of who we are as a people, where we come from, our history, our heritage, our culture, and all the social problems that we have. But of course, we live in a continent called Africa, even though sometimes we kind of forget that. So it's important that we also reflect what's happening in the continent and, of course, the rest of the world as well. So thank you for the initiative. And I really hope that these will be ongoing engagements going forward. So in terms of programming approach, this is just generic for SABC2 in terms of how we approach all our content. And then later I'll speak specifically to factual content. So as Gerard has said, we are a family entertainment channel. And so it's important that the content that we put on the channel celebrates our diverse families, because we are really a diverse country. And this is our beauty. This is our unique selling point as a nation, that we have this diversity, because other people, other nations don't have what we have. As much as it's a challenge in other instances, it really is what makes us South African. So we celebrate family life and we have fun while doing it, because I think family is really about getting together and having fun and reconnecting and strengthening bonds. So that's really important, because I think South Africans need that, you know, understanding, strengthening bonds across racial divide, I think will go a long way. We want to feel good content that focuses on high entertainment and promotes families doing things together. Content that connects people, I think, is important, that sparks off and promotes conversation amongst family members and people, and content that confronts challenges and social ills faced by families and the nation at large, with the aim of building healthier relationships. I think that's key, and I think that kind of speaks to kind of where factual content, where we are kind of placing it on the channel. And then lastly, content that empowers, educates, nurtures, and grows families and communities to reach their potential. So this is a very wordy slide, but I'll try and get through it. So in terms of our approach and editorial guide, when it comes to factual content on SABC2, we really value what factual content brings to the channel. It centers the channel, and it gives us substance, because as I said, everything else is entertainment, which is also important, which is what viewers are looking for. But this is the one place and the one space where we can get real with ourselves and look at ourselves and reflect and talk and converse and argue and fight, and hopefully, find a way forward to alleviate some of the issues that we have as a country. So factual content is amongst the most valuable, but probably neglected cultural forms in our time in terms of television. Why is it important? Because factual content preserves our culture, it preserves our heritage, our history, our languages, and it ensures that current realities are documented for future generations. It holds our consciousness. It helps us to introspect, to investigate, and to reflect our current realities, our beliefs and behaviors. It also gives us an opportunity to appreciate other people's realities beyond their own. So documentaries form a very important pillar to SABC2 and to SABC in general as a public broadcaster. So in terms of our approach to the content, we're looking to have a mixture of content, we from this very serious classic documentary, blue chip kind of content, to more lighter content, but that's still engaging and contemporary. And we're always looking to explore fresh and innovative ways and new forms of storytelling. We are looking for factual content that is not afraid, that is bold, that can go risky and push an envelope, that can be ambitious, content that will really make an impact and get South Africans to talk, or at least spark off a dialogue. And the tone of the content needs to be warm and charming. When it comes to the lighter content, we are interested in content that engages the senses and charges the emotions, and really to create that big national conversation that we don't have enough of as a nation. So factual content must not be afraid to take us into worlds that we really see, and because that's really what the value of it. So recently we started going into the docu-reality space, because I guess that is the trend. That is a trend at the moment. And but because we're a public broadcaster, we still need to ensure that our docu-reality still are not frivolous, are not mindless, are not just there for the sake of it, but they still kind of make a point, and viewers can still have some takeout, and we can see that with competition, we do need to increase the entertainment value in our content through social experiments and factual reality formats. The key objective is to change people's lives and to empower them and to move them forward and respond to the social ills. For example, the issues of absent fathers and, relationships between students and teachers. These things we hear about, we know about, we see them on social media, but we need to have serious conversations around these things, or serious interrogation into these worlds, and really get to understand. I mean, the issue now of gender-based violence, we all talk about it, and it's in the news, it's in our face, but I don't think we're having enough dialogue about it, and I don't think there are even enough documentaries, in my view, that are dealing with that topic. So that's really it. It's about content that builds us as a nation, that takes us forward, that is inclusive, and we have various spaces on the schedule that has got kind of factual content, and we do have an ICASA deliverable on factual content. GP, is it 2 hours in a week in prime time? Just remind me.
Yeah, 5 hours overall in a week and 2 hours of that in prime time.
That's right, in prime time. So we do have that deliverable, and I think that it's important for for you to know as filmmakers, because it's kind of like we have to do it because it's part of our deliverables. But we do it gladly because we appreciate and we understand the importance of documentaries and factual content. You can move to the next slide. Okay, when it comes to classic documentaries, you know, we're looking for content that mirrors the evolution of South African society. And we want to be in the forefront of South African and the continental agenda. We're looking for documentaries that cover current issues in a contemporary and entertaining manner. That's just an example, like the issue of service delivery or the lack of service delivery is important. High-end signature documentaries that reflect where our country and continent come from, while documenting our history, our heritage, our culture as it unfolds from an African perspective. We also want docies that explore people, the environment, nature, climate, conservation. We have various slots that deal with that. Docies that interrogate cultural practices and norms that are contentious, docies that commemorate special days, and also just celebrate our heroes. We don't have enough of those. And there's a lot to celebrate, just as much as there's a lot to talk about that we're not happy about. There's also a lot to celebrate in terms of who we are as a people, and people really, and individuals or organizations that have really contributed greatly to South Africa. So this is just a table. No, I've just lost my table. Of just the slots that we count as factual content, and the editorial focus obviously is different for each one, but they all fall under factual for us. So for example, the Monday 1900 slot, which is sitting in our Afrikaans block, that starts at 1800 with 7 de Land in the Centrum and ends at 8 o'clock. We have a variety of content there that is speaking to our Afrikaans audiences. And on a Monday in particular, we've had for the longest time a property called 50/50, which I'm sure you all know about because it's really been here forever. Even when I was a child, it was there. I think it's the longest running environmental documentary show in the country. And in this slot, we are looking, we're still doing environment, but we are looking to introduce a fresher content, new titles that speak to the environment, that speaks to people and the environment. We also put like a food explorer there that travels around the country at the moment, but also the world, just meeting different communities and just learning more about the environment. So we are looking to really unbundle that slot, and where we can have half-hour shows that speak to wildlife, but it is skewed to Afrikaans. And then so that we can diversify, because as much as we love 50/50, I think that, you know, we need to be introducing new titles there. So there's an opportunity there for filmmakers who are especially working in the environmental space and sustainable space and green living lifestyle. And I mean, yesterday was Earth Day, and you know, we don't do nearly enough of that kind of content because our survival and the survival of our kids really depends on our behavior and our relationship with the environment and the planet. So that's that slot. Then we have a Tuesday 2030 slot, and I've put there marginalized language factual offering. So as part of our delivery to ICASA, we have to do content that kind of speaks in our marginalized languages. So at the moment we have 2 properties there, but we're looking for more that speak in Tsonga or Chivenda or Isindebele, Siswati. but you know, and anything really goes there, you know, any topic that's important, that is interesting, that will have a broader appeal to a broader audience, we would welcome there. We would need obviously to be subtitled in English because it is a minority language, and so a few people only speak these languages, but it's important that they find expression on the schedule, which they do. Then the Thursday 2030 slot is a documentary talk, and for the longest time there we've had Motswako, but we've since been able to introduce new titles. I know it's not straight documentary, but I'm just kind of giving you the schedule that, you know, part of what we have to do is to keep conversing about different issues, and so there is an opportunity there for those who are interested in talk. And then on a Thursday at 2200, we have it's a repeat slot because I think the main slot is on a Saturday, but it's a crime investigation series, which is it's mostly licensed content. But we are looking to get content of a similar nature because, you know, I mean, we trained as far as crime is concerned in this country. And so there's a plenty of content that we can, I think, come up and develop just to kind of really understand the psyche of crime and the psyche of people who commit crime. It's good entertainment, but I think there's an opportunity to also learn. So that's something that we are actively looking for there. We also have a series from the police, which is called, what is it called? When Duty Calls, which is basically about what the South African Police Service is doing in this area. But we are looking to expand that offering there. Yeah, so I won't do the Friday because it's a repeat slot. Then on a Saturday at 1 o'clock, we have a slot that is focusing on disability, where we've had shows like DTV there and Talkability, etc. So it's a mandate requirement again to have content that speaks to people with disabilities, but again must have a broader appeal to everyone. So there's always a need there to just, you know, refresh that content so that it's not the same title over and over again. I think there's a new title coming in now called Activated, which is produced by a company in Cape Town, which is a different take on the subject matter. That Saturday 21:30 is that foreign crime drama thing that I was talking about. So that's a foreign slot, so I won't go into that. And then on a Sunday, you'll see that we've recently changed, or not recently, not a year now, where we've kind of, you know, introduced our docu-reality slots there, more lighter content in the earlier part of prime time after the news, where we'll have things, reality shows, on dating shows, whether it's local or foreign, or about people going into debt or trying to come out of debt. Really lighter content, but still something that has value. And then at 2000, that slot really is a flexible slot. It can either be an hour or half an hour, docu-reality, local and foreign. So there's opportunities there. And then at 2030, we have a Speak Out at the moment, which has also been running there forever and a day. And we are looking for other consumer affairs type of content because we all know that our viewers need that kind of thing. People are being scammed on a daily. Times are hard, and so it's important that we empower our viewers. But the entertainment value has to be really high because we are competing, you know, at this time, other channels have got movies and that. So it's important that as much as it must be empowering and educational at times or informative, it also just needs to have high entertainment value. And then lastly is the Sunday 2100 slot, which is our documentary slot, which is an hour from 2100 to 2200. And really anything goes in this slot. So this is kind of where we play all our feature-length documentaries, dealing with different subjects that I spoke to about earlier on in the editorial guide. And I think this is probably the slot that most filmmakers on this call would be interested in as well, in helping us. And this is a mixture of commissioned documentaries as well as licensed documentaries, licensed as in from South African filmmakers or other distributors that would give us content for us to license. And at the moment, the slot, to be honest, is really carried by licenses from South African filmmakers, because, you know, documentaries take such a long time to make, because that's just the nature of the beast. And so if you want to produce something decent, you need to give it the necessary lead time. And so for us to close our gaps, we really do rely on these documentaries and work together with our colleagues at Content, with Factual. And they also, you know, I think you also welcome to kind of speak to them as well, because we work hand in hand. Sometimes the docies suggestions come from them and we have a look, and other times it's from us, they have a look, and we collaborate in that way. So this is, I guess, the key Sunday docu slot, where we're really looking to shape the conversation and the narrative, and not be afraid to have the conversations that we need to talk about, but at the same time kind of balance it with things that we can celebrate and we want to celebrate as a nation, because yeah, there needs to be a balance in every way. So GP, I think I'll leave it there because I've kind of just summarized all the slots. I'm happy to take any questions or comments from colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jackie, as well as Gerard, for the presentation that you've just given us. I just want to, before we open it up to questions, check if there's anyone else from the SABC who would like to add or comment now. Or we can go into questions.
No, you can. Sort of the questions are more than welcome. Just before we start the conversation, okay, I want to just kind of like put a few things on the table. Okay, so we're looking for stuff that really stands out, and sometimes it's about very ordinary things that happen, and it's about how people tell the story about that. We found it was done under the education banner, but I mean, it was a kind of a docu-reality series called Life Begins After Coffee. We commissioned 6 episodes. It's the story of a group of disabled waiters working in a restaurant in Cape Town. Okay. It was just an amazing series. So it's a story about ordinary people doing ordinary things, etc., but it's in the way it is done. You know, that's the kind of thing. Also from education, but it's also under the Factual banner. We did a season of 1,000 Lives, which is about organ transplant. And I know that these stories take a long time to film, etc., but you know, in the time that the series was on air, the guys from the organ donation, I don't know, it's not necessarily a fund, but guys who register for organ donation, I think they got an extra 73,000 people to sign up. So not only is the content entertaining and is wonderful to watch, but it also has a social impact. So we're looking for things that kind of like make a difference, but that stand out, that is about normal things sometimes, but it's about how you tell the story. Okay.
Thank you for that. Thanks. And I must just say, it's really great to hear your presentation, because I think we realized that SABC2 is really the home for our content. So as documentary filmmakers, it's really encouraging that there are dedicated slots that also have to be fulfilled by factual content. So thanks to that. Also important for us to note that a lot of docu-reality, documentary talk shows are are kind of part of your programming. So that's also good. So I just want to get into the questions. We've had a question from Liani, and she's asked kind of what durations does SABC2 accept? 24 minutes, 48. We do understand that they, that there is that feature slot on a Sunday at 9 p.m. Are you accepting 24 minutes as well? Could you let us know a little bit about that? And then we've got a few more questions.
Sure. So it's okay, you want to go, GP?
No, you can go.
Okay, it is an hour slot, so it's 46 minutes. But we will take 24 minutes at times. It just obviously sometimes it's a little difficult to take it if you don't have anything to pair it with, So it is quite a flexible slot. Sometimes we take even longer than 46. So we'll take like a feature length 72-minute and we'll make space for it because it goes late into the night. But it all depends on what the documentary is about and, whether it's kind of worth for us to disrupt the schedule in that way. But we are quite flexible, in that way. It's just that if it's 24 minutes, it's important that we find something else to pair it with that is kind of not similar, but you know what I mean? There's just that it makes logical sense to follow up with that in the next 24 minutes.
Yeah, and can I just follow on from that and ask if you would package shorts together, so shorter than 24 minutes. So if there were 8-minute, 6-minute films, would you be willing to package that together as an hour, a TV hour?
No, you can ask Renee this, but from my side, you can imagine that to fill 24 minutes, I'm going to have to do 4 or 5 contracts, which means that for every single one of those things, I would need to compile a business plan, and then I would need to have it contracted. So quite honestly, I would rather that 5 filmmakers come together and say, we're going to package this and we are going to give you a 23-minute package program, and then I only have to contract one person. It's just because it's a nightmare.
No, that's thank you for that. That's to be understood. I can understand. Okay, so we've got a question from Moleboheng Sibidihuwako. He or she is asking, a lot of young creatives in SA feel that they don't know where to take their content that they would like to share with the SABC. Are there any think tank sessions at SABC or dedicated people who listen to proposals from young people and then advise them? How do we get hold of you? And then who is the right person to speak to? And then also when an individual has licensed content, documentary or short film, and the SAB is interested, what is then the process? So I think what is the process of licensing a short film or documentary? I mean, I think we can refer to our previous sessions. There are specific individuals who receive licensed content to consider, and so I'm going to just ask if maybe you can just mention those names, and we can always follow up via email with those contacts because we have them. But I guess the question is, in wanting to conceptualize the content SABC is looking for, especially SABC2. How do we go about hearing from SABC2 in a different session outside of this one, exactly what it is that works, maybe with more examples, or if somebody would like to speak to SABC2, or will you have further engagement sessions with the industry outside of this one?
I take that, Karen and Jackie.
Thank you.
So yeah, we can arrange that. Normally we do about 3 sessions to the industry a year. We didn't obviously do anything last year because of COVID. We're trying to set it up again this year. We do the national road shows, and we have the commissioning road shows that we host annually. We'll start it up again probably only middle of the year, and it will be online. We always ask that people ensure that their details are with the commissioning office database. I've sent through you guys in my session, Antoinette, there is the email addresses there. So for commissioning, you can send it through. We put you on the database. We communicate via SMS and email when we have those sessions. I think also what must be very clear is we are a state-owned entity. I'm actually in National Treasury next week, Wednesday, where I'm going to be beaten and crucified and pulled through the coals for not adhering to process. When we communicate with people, we have to communicate with a broad range of people. We can't have one-on-ones because that is perceived as somebody is having special treatment, and it's not being, whatever information we share always has to be for everybody. Otherwise it's deemed as collusion. So that's why we don't do pop into my office, pop into Gerard's, pop into Jackie's, that's chat. We don't have the luxury. I'm not a multi-choice or an ETV. It's no good, not just for the SABC, but for filmmakers, because we do have a number of filmmakers that got caught up in that cycle and the SIU, and we can't work with them. It becomes unnecessary. The channel strategies don't change every month. They don't change every week. This strategy that Jack and Gerard shared with you is in place for the next 12 to 18 months. When there is a specific need on the schedule, we'll put out an RFP. And that RFP is then for everybody. An open, unsolicited process means a filmmaker has looked at the channels, has looked at the competition, has an amazing idea, and is putting something together to sell to the SABC. That's the filmmaker's prerogative and his business strategy. It's not something that he's going to go and sit with either Gerard, because 1, 2, 3 of you get an opportunity to speak to myself, Jackie, or Gerard. The rest of you are not going to be happy because you did not have that opportunity. So we always got to look at all sides of it. It's sometimes frustrating, I know, for the channels in particular, because they want to be hands-on, they want to be like at the forefront, but we do have these, I shouldn't say unnecessary rules, but some of them are difficult for us to maneuver because they're not made for a broadcaster, they're made for goods and services. That's an ongoing struggle we will continue to fight as a state-owned entity, but look out for when we have our sessions. All the channels are there when we have our sessions. All of content is there when we have our sessions. So it's an open session, there's questions, there's answers, you can ask, we share the information. As of now, you have S1's brief strat, you will have S2s, and then in a few weeks' time, you'll get S3s. It will remain for the next 12 to 18 months. It's not going to change. And if they have massive gaps in their schedules, they'll issue an RFP. But as Jackie had said earlier, if something comes in and it's really great and it's amazing, they will make place on their schedule for it. They'll kick something off and bring it on. There must be a reason why Gerard is going to change his entire 12-month schedule for this thing to come in. And we've had that. We've had that for the last couple of months. We have made schedule changes for some really interesting, good content that has come in. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the clarification, Renee. And I've also put in the chat the link to the recording of our last session, which is on our YouTube page. So you'll find all of the kind of direct contact details of those that were mentioned in that session. So please have a look at that. So I've got 2 more questions. I'm going to put them together and then I'll open it up for an answer from the SABC2. So what happens from Ntokozo Mia? What happens if the content meets SABC2 criteria objectives, but is in languages other than Sesotho and Afrikaans? Is that a deal breaker? And then the other question from Charlene Houston, thank you so much for the session. Are there RFPs open at this point, or when will these come out? I think this was answered in a previous session. And does the channel have budget to buy or commission? Is it one or the other or both? Thank you.
I thought Renee was going to jump in here.
No, it's channel specific, so I'll leave it to you.
No. I mean, sort of, there's no RFPs that are open at the moment, because there was an unsolicited. There was an unsolicited that was open. What, at the end of last year or the beginning of this year?
It
so
was
there's a lot
opened in November. 554 proposals that we received in November. We've shortlisted. Entertainment's pitching started last week, and we will be rolling out all the remaining pitching sessions that have come up. So like for factual, let me be specific, factual, out of that 554, there were 139 submissions for factual. These are not licenses, guys. These are pre-sales and 100% commission stuff that you're looking for. And out of those, we've shortlisted 36. And we're just waiting. Obviously, we need to have certain amount of people. There must be a chair. There must be security. It's an unnecessary story for all of you to know about my troubles. Once all of that is sorted, we'll start calling the pitches. Only once that is wrapped will I open the window again, because I think it's unfair on producers who have submitted and we haven't communicated yet. RFPs are as and when channel requires. The last RFP we put out was last year, October. SABC3 was looking for a telenovela. So this year, after this window, if Zane, Hera, Jackie, and Pat did not find anything in the unsolicited to fill their gaps, they'll issue out an RFP.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was something on S2, Gerard?
Yes, there was something on the language. I couldn't talk to the language. I mean, we're a family channel, and we are broadcasting to all South Africans, and families are speaking in different languages. So all languages are welcome and are broadcast on SABC2. But what we do ask for is if the content can come subtitled wall to wall in English, so that viewers who don't understand a particular language can also, watch the content and appreciate it. So no, it's not a deal breaker. All South African languages are absolutely welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I saw people mention that there's a backlog. Yes, there is an immense backlog of certain things, especially licenses at the moment, because you have to understand that we have lost a number of people. So the people that are left, and it's not like, I wouldn't want to fast forward through anybody's documentary and make a decision based on, I saw something. That's unfair to everybody. So yeah, we can only apologize, but it's going to take a while to clear the backlog of things that have been submitted, especially as licenses.
And GP, there was a question on budgets, whether there's budgets for factual content.
John, there's always a budget for factual content, because remember, we have to deliver. At the moment, it might be that we're slightly more skewed to licenses, just because it's made already. And when you buy in the international market, you can get documentaries for a lot less than what you would commission it at. But I always balance the budget and say, okay, we can afford this, we can't afford that. So we make a plan. If it's something that's spectacular, we will always make a plan.
Yes, thank
But
you.
maybe can I just add to the budget thing, especially if it's a license, that we obviously, our license fee is not going to be what you spend on making the documentary, because it is your license, it is your IP as a filmmaker, and you can kind of exploit that content. So I think it's just an important point to make, that our license fee will always be less, significantly be less than what we would have paid if we had commissioned that content.
Just while we're on licensing, could I just ask about the terms of those licenses? So would it be a year, 2 years? How many times, would it be shown on SABC2? Would it be shared amongst any of the other channels? If you could just talk us through what the terms of the licensing would entail. And of course, we understand that's for negotiation with the producer. Yeah.
If it's a sort of a premiere on SABC2, I mean, sort of obviously, if it hasn't been shown anywhere else, we will probably pay a little bit more, but I would probably ask for at least 3 runs. Remember, we also have an SABC education channel attached to SABC2. So as this thing moves ahead, at the moment, it's filled with DBE content, so it's kind of like formal education, the bulk of it, and the rest is repeats because we didn't have a budget. But as we move forward, the content that we acquire for SABC 1, 2, and 3, but especially for SABC 2, because when it comes to the environment, when it comes to history, when it comes to health, for instance, these things also work well on an education channel. So even though it's not kind of formal education, it still educates people. It gives people tools. So in the negotiation, one would ask, sort of, I'm gonna premiere it on SABC2, and I will repeat it on SABC2, but I will probably ask for, sort of an extra 4 runs on the education channel because it just works. But it's all in the negotiation, And I think people also need to remember that we all understand that that you need to go and sell your documentary onto somebody else. So it's fine if the SABC takes a first window on it, but I can't lock you in for 10 years because then you will never be able to make money out of out of your documentary, and I'm not paying you for making the documentary. So yeah, therein lies the. But we sit around the table and we talk.
Yeah, but normally as a benchmark, normally the license period is around 2 years for 2 to 3 runs in that period, depending. That's just a benchmark, but as Gerard says, it's a negotiation and it's done on an individual basis.
Thank you. So we've got a question from Millie Mulaudzi. With decommissioning taking place, is there a set duration for recommissions of shows?
Okay, I'm not quite understanding when they say
so I understand the question.
Yeah, so Millie, I mean, do you want to just quickly jump in and? No. Okay, so I guess, what is the likelihood of shows being recommissioned? And how are those decisions being made?
Okay,
if you've already got a show that's running on SABC.
If you have a show and the show is successful, so it draws in audiences, it makes money, okay, then obviously your chances are a lot better to get a recommission than anything else. But we also steer away from just having the same piece of content, sort of over and over and over, like sort of when Jackie was speaking about Speak Out, which is our consumer affairs show. For years, we've done that, but merely because we have never received an alternative. We briefed it out, etc., but nobody came to the party and said, okay, I have a show. And then suddenly last year, we received 3 proposals of things that kind of like deals with consumer affairs, but it's about how people are ripped off. Okay. Another series is these guys have access to the video camera footage that is filmed in the inner city of Johannesburg. So they're building stories about, you know, sort of crime and petty crime in the center of Johannesburg, and how these things are resolved, and, you know, how people are caught because of that. So it's a different take on straightforward consumer affairs, but it's stuff that actually affects us. So therefore, you know, sort of a speak out will make space for that. And if these things are successful, obviously you will recommission, because then it works.
Thank you. So just quickly to recap, will you just tell us again what, in terms of the episodic factual content that you're looking for, your docu-reality, your true crime series, what is it that, what of those are you looking for? So you're looking for true crime, you're looking for your consumer protection style shows. What else? Yeah. So that we know when we go back to the drawing board and we want to develop. And Enver has his hand up. So Enver, perhaps after this you can go, and then I think we have to wrap.
Yeah. Okay, so as Jackie said, on a Monday night, it's environmental stuff. So it doesn't have to be wildlife. It's about how are we all going to do things differently to kind of like save the planet? Because, I mean, it's a mess. So we have a series that is being done at the moment called Sweet Waters, which is about the water crisis in South Africa. It's about green living. I would love, I think, a reality series on people who move away out of the city and who are building a house or things that is completely off the grid. It's kind of like weird, okay, but people are doing that. I mean, it's the reality, and maybe that's part of the solution. So, you know, I'm not saying give me that, because I've already mentioned that, but kind of like a different take on that. On a Tuesday night, as Jackie said, marginalized, so it has to be in a marginalized language, which is kind of like documentaries about people who speak that language or live in that language group. So it's kind of like very open, but something that predominantly appeals to those guys. On a Thursday night, there's kind of like talk, but also docu-reality. Docu-reality in any format is welcome. Okay, we prefer it probably to be a 13, 23-minute episode series to try it out. But if it's something that's really snazzy and you believe it works better in 4 episodes or 6 episodes or whatever, you know, so we can talk about it, we can decide. It also doesn't help that you have a magic idea, but you come and you say, I want to do this over 13 or 26 episodes, when it's really something that's contained in 4 or 6 episodes. You know, sort of the story and what you want to say and what you want to tell always determines kind of like how many episodes. Then obviously when we look at crime and crime documentaries, I think those probably work better in an hour format. But there's a limited scope, because the bulk of the stuff we're doing at the moment is obviously licenses, because I mean there are masses of that kind of thing. But I mean, sort of a South African twist on that would be great. Then when it comes to disability documentaries, yeah, I mean, sort of again, you know, it's open. You know, we'll look at what you guys put on the table. And then again, documentary reality, relationships and the law, etc. Just, you know, sort of like Jackie said, we have absent fathers, but we also have fathers who want to be involved in their families' lives, but because of certain things that happened in the past, they're being prevented. There's a wonderful docu-reality series in that. Okay, nobody has ever submitted, you know, sort of a proposal like that. And then obviously, when it comes to documentaries on the Sunday night, you know, sort of history, social documentaries, anything, what would be great? I mean, sort of, you guys have an organization. It's very difficult if you receive kind of like one really good let's say, for instance, one really good 1 hour documentary on health. Okay, now I think, okay, this is really a great thing, but if I commission it, what do I pair it with? So as an organization, I'm sure there are more than 4 people who kind of like play in that field or who focuses on that kind of documentaries. Why don't you guys come together and say, okay, I have this, I have this, I have this. You submit those 4 things as a strand of kind of like health documentaries or crime documentaries or whatever it is. It makes it a lot easier if there are 4 things, then you look at it and you say, okay, so I can fit these in, or I can commission these 4 documentaries and they will play over a month in April or June or whenever. It just makes it kind of like easier.
Yeah, and maybe one more slot that we didn't talk about, GP. It's not really for factual, but it is documentary. Is the Issues of Faith slot on a Sunday at 1600.
Sorry.
Yeah. I just remembered it. So it's a 1 hour slot, and there is documentaries, feature documentaries, maybe even 24 minutes if we can pair it with something, but it's skewed towards religion and faith and spirituality and all.
Spirituality.
Yeah, we'd rather say spirituality. Yeah, that's the word we prefer. And all spiritual, all faiths, really. It's quite an eclectic slot and open. So that's another opportunity for filmmakers who are interested in making documentaries of that nature.
Thank you so much, Inva. And we'll have to wrap.
Hi, everyone. Gerard, you started off by saying you have sympathy for documentary filmmakers. So I just want to, can I give an example? So basically, I pitched an unsolicited project in June 2018, and then I was invited to pitch in October 2018. And then I've got my contract, so thank you very much for that. But I got the contract in February 2021. From 2018 to February 2021. It's quite a long time, and so I just want to find out, like, can that process be much more streamlined or faster? Can it be fast-tracked? Because I'm sure you'll agree that that's quite a long time to wait for a contract to be signed off. And when you're making a documentary, it becomes a problem.
I totally agree with you. Are you doing this for SABC2?
The channels are not yet assigned on the contract.
Yeah, no, sort of when it comes to commissioning.
Can I check? Is that a pre-sale? That's the only reason you wouldn't get a channel, because the channel
it's a pre-sale.
business plan.
It's a unsolicited pre-sale.
Okay,
yeah,
yes. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think in our last session, David did say to you guys that they are trying to shorten the timelines. I'm going to put a disclaimer. Outside of the meeting with National Treasury next week, we might even become longer in our timelines. I think that the stuff that ideally one wants to do RFPs, because with RFPs, you've got slots approved and you've got budget approved. So you don't need to go through a longer process of approvals like unsolicited. In unsolicited, content likes it, approves it, pitch happens, everything happens. It must go back to the programming forums within the platforms. And within them, they've also got approvals. So there's just these constant layers of approvals that one needs to go through. So in my best life and in Gerard and Jackie's best life, we'll be issuing out RFPs every month. And we'll take 2 months to wrap those RFPs up, and we'll move along. That's not our reality. We've got a lot of challenges that we are facing. I know we've been spending the last 4 years trying to overcome them. I think we are getting there. I think at the end of the day, one would rather think, did I want it or did I not want it? So it did take 3 years. I don't even have like an excuse for that 3 years, but it's there. So yeah, I think that's our lives. We every last one of us in the division is working towards trying to make our business easy for all of us, for the industry and for ourselves. Because as frustrating it is for you, Enver, it is exactly the same for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll get there. I'm happy you finally got your contract.
Yeah,
I need to
no,
just check why the hell you don't
you
have
got
a
a
channel
contract.
attached to it. Like, who's paying for it? A channel has to be attached to it because you wouldn't have had a budget. But anyway,
It
that's
sounds like S3, but I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, we've gone way over.
Okay, so I obviously would just like to acknowledge that we've gone a little bit over time. I know that CD, I'm not sure who CD is. They're obviously not DVD, but CD, did you have a question very quickly? Otherwise, we can close.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for the session. I think my question was answered somewhere. That's why I lowered my hand. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, so I just want to say thanks again to SABC2, to Jackie, to Gerard, to Renee. You know, in as much as it's a little bit alarming just to hear that things might be delayed even further, just in terms of the processes at the SABC with your upcoming presentation to Treasury, Renee. We really are hoping that we can keep these lines of communication open, which will obviously help us already. I think it has. So all of these conversations are archived on our YouTube channel. There's been a lot of information that's been shared, a lot of kind of direct emails so that our members can get online and get in touch with those at the SABC. We do understand you are facing challenges internally, the kind of very the lack of personnel now after the retrenchments have been made. So we understand that there's a lot of pressure from all sides. But thanks again for making the time and for meeting with us. And thanks to everybody who's showed up from the DFA to our members. And I hope this was useful, and we'll be back again next 2 weeks from now for our last session with the SABC. We might even be missing these after some time. But we have some others planned as well. So thank you. Thanks for this, and we appreciate it, and we do hope you have a lovely weekend. So thanks, everybody.